Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Welsh, and I am here today with Payroll4Construction. I want to start by thanking everybody for carving out a few minutes today to attend our webinar on, 5 signs that might be time to outsource your payroll. We'll kind of talk benefits of outsourcing here today, just some of the things we see lead people to, make the decision to outsource, kind of what makes us different as a company and how, a lot of construction companies think that they can't outsource due to the complexity. So we'll kind of tackle all of those things today. Today is a listen-only broadcast, so what I tell everybody is this is pretty high-level overview. If anybody attends one of these and, it piques your interest, we can schedule live one-on-one demos that are more tailored to you and your specific situation and needs. So we do encourage those as well. But if anybody has any questions, you can type them in. Some of them I'll answer right as you type them in. Others I may wait till the end or as I get to a part of the kind of webinar that ties to that question. But you guys can ask questions, and I'll leave time at the very end for it as well. So I'll pop up my contact information now and then at the end so that you guys can make sure you know who to reach out to if you do have questions or interest in learning more here. So let's just jump right into some of the things we see here. I mean, there, of course, are other things, other circumstances that do lead people to look at outsourcing. But one of the big ones we see is office turnover. You know what I mean? It's hard. Payroll is such a, it can be a mess. It's a very obviously important thing to every business, but construction has its own set of elements that make it tough to find somebody to deal with construction payroll. So when you lose that person, just finding somebody to fill those shoes is a very difficult thing to do. Now, as I go through this today, I'm not going to pretend to anybody that if you outsource your payroll, you will never hear, see, or do payroll again. In construction, that is just not feasible. So office turnover, you can at least have somebody there behind scenes that makes sure as long as hours are reported into the system, you can rest assured the employees are paid so they keep coming back to work and you keep your company moving along, and you can ensure that those taxes are paid. That's a big thing right there. Kind of ties to a point here. I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but, filing the taxes accurately and on time. We're all human. We make mistakes, even the best of us. So sometimes it's just, hey, we're going to outsource payroll because a mistake was made. It was a mistake, nothing intentional, but that mistake unfortunately cost the company quite a bit of money. So it's more of a, hey, we're going to outsource to have this insurance plan. So I kind of look at a payroll service in general as taking the tax liability off your plate. So, I mean, there's an aspect, an element of a payroll service that is hard to kind of see or touch, intangible, where it's like, hey, if something happens and I have a service, there is that insurance, that coverage there, that kind of those two bullet points tie into there. Just time consuming. Hey, how can we free up some time? I mean, you're going to see here in a second, when I get into this PowerPoint a little bit more, we're unique in the fact that we're a payroll service, but we're also an accounting system, an ERP system called Foundation Software that I'll kind of talk a little bit about, ensuring that everybody here today knows that our payroll service can be standalone, no problem, and we can absolutely work with QuickBooks and other accounting systems. But sometimes it's just the process itself, from time collection in the field, getting together, getting them into the system, reviewing it, and more importantly, not just paying the employees and taxes, but the reporting that comes after payroll for construction. Again, I have a large audience today that I don't get to figure out what each individual company does and how we can potentially help there. So I got to be a little more vague, but some clients are union. They have specific union reports or EEO manning monthly compliance reports, or a lot of our clients certified payroll. So these are things that just, once you think payroll done or payroll is done, whereas most other industries, well, yeah, employees are paid, taxes are paid. Maybe they got to submit a 401k payment or something. But for the most part, payroll is done. Whereas in this industry, again, depending on your situation, those compliance reports. So we'll talk. That'll kind of be the part where I discuss on, well, hey, yeah, you can outsource, but you want to outsource to somebody who is construction specific like ourselves, because we get those issues that some of these other services won't be able to fill the gap in for when it comes to providing those reports. And then these kind of all tie together. Just time. You know what I mean? Hey, a lot of our clients wear one or don't wear one hat. You know, they're doing 4, 5, 6 different things. So just again, freeing up some time and just kind of streamlining the process. So that inserts us, kind of what I'm here to talk about today. So Payroll for Construction. So we are a payroll service similar to your ADP and Paychecks, where we check all the boxes from paying employees and garnishments and taxes, but we do it because we're powered by parts of our accounting system. So where we become so unique is that over 35 years ago, we developed this software called Foundation that you'll actually see a little bit today, but you'll see that we're only having you access the payroll piece of it. So that is our standalone payroll service module that we'll show you here in a few minutes. And then we can do this in all 50 states. So this is where we look for the messier the payroll, the better, meaning the more states, the more union, the more prevailing wage, the more job costing you need. That is where we really become different than all these other services out there. So some of those things, like we've already discussed this, tracking, reporting. So workers' compensation. You know, some people have different workers' comp per state. Some people have, depending on what they're doing. This is construction. If I have somebody up, you know, on a roof doing a tear off or putting a new roof on, my workers' comp rate would probably be completely different than if I had somebody on the ground that was just cleaning up scraps, stuff like that, putting it in a dumpster. So being able to differentiate, you know, what jobs they're working on, what they're doing on jobs, those types of things in this payroll can affect workers' comp, pay rates, union benefits, deductions, and even, like I said, multi-state or city, even taxes, depending on where they're actually working. So this is where we, again, start to separate ourselves with the way the system works, what it was built for originally 36 years ago, you know, union, government, prevailing wage contractors, and that's all we continue to focus on today. So the other aspect of payroll is that reporting. Once payroll is done with us, these reports are there. Are we submitting your certified or your union reports or workers' comp? No, we're not. But we're giving you a place that auto-populates that data on very specific forms, not just all generic forms. We'll get into some of that here in a minute. But this is where all of your reporting would be. And then also, the main things. This is any service you go to. Let me go back real quick here. Any service that you go to will check these boxes. So again, outsourcing payroll, giving you that insurance policy, saving you some of that time when it comes to the core of paying employees, taxes, year-end quarterlies, W-2s. We do that, but that's where we get different is kind of that tracking and that actual reporting there. A few other things that make us different is the fact that we can integrate with QuickBooks and other accounting systems out there. So having that backbone of accounting, we can structure a unique chart of accounts, jobs that match. So when payroll's done, we can kick that general ledger and job costing data back into QuickBooks, Sage, or whatever else you guys are using out there. Most systems can upload the data. Okay, only focus is construction here. So that's one of those things where it's like, all right, construction, we don't have a division here that focuses on construction. I have a lot of people that come to us from your traditional, more generic providers, and you know, a lot of the big question is, do I have one person to always talk to? And it's when I tell them no, you can kind of sense the fear because they're so used to having to teach the person on the other end of the line, the person they're paying for, paying to be there for them to make their payroll easier. They're the teacher instead of being the student. Whereas with us, every person here, that's all we support is complex construction payroll. So you'll always talk to a live receptionist, and we're going to understand what your needs are because, again, we don't have just a little division that tackles this. This is all we do. Getting time into our system, we'll cover. I mean, we have mobile apps. If you're on a mobile app that you're pretty happy with, as long as it can export the data, that can be uploaded to us. You can, of course, enter time in here. We have plenty of clients out there that still have a portal they can log into, and then they enter the time in there. But you can access any of our products, from the mobile app to the employee seeing their pay stubs to the actual online payroll service that I'm going to dive into here in a second. You can access any of this stuff from any computer with internet. The mobile devices and stuff can, of course, be used from, phone, tablet, Android, Apple, any of that kind of stuff can be done, no problem. Okay. This here, I will pop this up at the end. What we'll do is leave PowerPoint, get into a little bit of the showing of, hey, what do your clients look at, see, use? And again, it is just the payroll portion of our accounting ERP system. So log in online, instead of seeing, payroll company A, B, or even Payroll4Construction, it still will be labeled that, but you'd be accessing this online to report your payroll and get your reports from us. So where I'll start is what makes our system so unique is not just job, not just that you can track a job. Of course, that's a necessity, but it's that you can control things by job. So instead of having this service, this system that we set up Rick and say Rick makes $20 an hour and he's from state A or he's from Union Local 1, where if you're the company that as they move around, things could change. Well, why it's changing is because of the jurisdiction. The job will stay in that jurisdiction. It won't jump up and move. These employees, sure, they're going to come, they're going to go, they're going to move from site 1 to 2 to 3, which could trigger these changes. So the biggest thing I try getting people to take away from, first time around demonstration, aside from the reporting at the end, but just overall functionality is just we can set this up to automate so much stuff here for you, where the only thing you need to do is put in your jobs, and then I'll show you how we can set some parameters on there. But we'll start here. Again, if you're not union or prevailing wage, this would just be non-existent for you. If you are, this is where we can set up union agreements or unique prevailing wage agreements, whether they're per job or per county. Now, we don't pretend to have every single union and every single, or every single prevailing wage rate and class across the country in here. We just don't. So we do rely on our clients to say, hey, here are my union agreements, Jim, or hey, here's my prevailing wage stuff. We really customize this. So my system has dropped down with a bunch of information in here because I got to show a ton of different examples. But the nice thing is after doing a one-on-one demo, whether it's one or multiple, and a client decides, hey, we're going to move forward and outsource our payroll to you, we're going to be there every step of the way. Before they would get back in here to see this and do training with the trainer one-on-one, to do testing of the payroll to make sure everything is working before we take that ever so critical piece of your business over. All that stuff is going to happen, and it's going to be much easier to learn, because when you start clicking drop downs, things that we call trade, maybe you call work classification, these things will all start to just come together because you see it in there and you can start to associate our terminology with yours, kind of all come together. So this is where, if I'm non-union, this is where the rate goes. The fringe can go on a separate table to keep overtime straight. Whether you're paying it to the employee or you're putting it in some type of a plan, that can be done. And then if you're union, of course, just a little bit different terminology, wording, verbiage. But we have these. These tables, especially if you're union, are good for updating the masses. Meaning if I change this rate today and I have 10 journeyman electrician out of Local 38, all 10 of them just got updated. We want to keep you out of employee records as much as possible, whereas most other services and software have you in and out of there all the time, or changing things manually on the time card. With us, we change this, it'll update everybody. Now, if you have anybody you pay above scale, you can put that higher rate in their record, and it would use that for just that employee or those employees. So we can also roll these over midweek. So even if it's April 1st and that's a Wednesday, it'll use the old rates Monday, Tuesday, new rates Wednesday moving forward, and it'll timestamp that on their paycheck, your report, certified union, you name it. So we're all about saving you as much time in the office, but we also know that we can't jeopardize visibility in this payroll just because, hey, these folks need to see it, be it unions, contractors, agencies, or employees. Okay, deductions and stuff. again, this could be different. Obviously, if you're union, they have given you the terms, how they calculate, what the calculating factor is, how they're taxed. Biggest thing I show when I'm doing a one-on-one demo is not, hey, look at this and look how hard this is going to be for you to learn. We are willing to set these up, change these, add these at no additional cost. Again, biggest thing is we do need you to provide them with us. So we have clients that are very hands-on, that when these change, they come in here and change them because we've taught them how to, and they like to be self-sufficient like that. Once they're built to start, it's editing a few things and saying when you want it to change. However, if you wanted to, you could send it to us. We'll build this, and there are many of my clients that don't even really come in here. They're more focused on the next steps I'm going to go through. For time purposes, employees, workers' comp, again, whether you have one policy or you have multiple, or depending on what they're doing, could put them in a different group or category in that workers' comp policy. We'll set all that up, handle it, and then I'll show you the actual reporting here in a few minutes. Just to be clear, we, as most services do not, we do not pay insurances or benefits. So employees, yes. Garnishments, yes. All taxes, yes. But if it's workers' comp, union, health, 401k, it's a part of payroll. Of course, it's going to be set up, tracked, deducted, or accrued, and then we're just going to give you reports to make those payments. So we will get that stuff set up. The other big thing with workers' comp and setup is when we talk integration and we talk job costing, we're talking everything, not just hours times rate of pay equals my costing. We're talking hours times rate plus FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' comp, union fringes if you're union. So we'll make sure we get that stuff set up so it all tracks accordingly. Employees, again, for today's purposes, I like to keep these to about 25, 30 minutes, give you a few minutes for questions as well. But, I mean, employees, we have different options. I mean, we can upload all these from whatever current system you're on. You can edit anything. We can track vacation, loans, you name it. Everything you could track through, just about any payroll system out there. I don't pretend that we're better or worse than the competition when it comes to that. We do have coming out here in the next month or two. It's in our current clients' hands, just having them test through some stuff. But we will have an HRIS onboarding platform that, again, if anybody after this wants to connect, talk, learn more, that's something that, I could talk to them and I could actually show you it. We have a viable product here. So we'll move on from that. So it brings us to the setup, the training, testing. Let's pretend you go past that. What does a typical week in the life of our client look like? It's three things: putting in new jobs, getting in your time, running your reports. So when I go into a job record, again, that's why it's so important that beginning of webinars or one-on-one demos, I make mention of the company's connections, because you get into a job record and it looks like you got to fill in a whole heck of a lot. You don't. Reality is you're creating these job names, these numbers. These are completely up to you guys. So for some clients, this is all they need. Hey, we don't need certified payroll for this job. This job's not in a different state. I just want this job in here for job cost tracking and to push back to QuickBooks or my current accounting system. You're done. So you're not spending a lot of time here. Now, where you could get into some override type stuff, this is where I can flag what state the job's in. That way, if I have guys and gals bouncing between multi-state in a day or week, it's not an issue. Code it to the right job, right taxes are handled. We then pay those taxes. If it's certified, that gets you to certified. The nice thing about our system is it's all retroactive. We know that no matter how perfect the system is or your team is, there's going to be mistakes. We're dealing with field employees and contractors and agencies that just don't always pass along accurate information in a timely fashion to the office. But when those mistakes occur, of course, our job in the office to rectify that. So our whole system, I could check that a week, month, year in. Every certified would be there. If you found out wrong hours after payroll or, wrong job, you tell us, we fix it, keep you moving. The only other thing you may override here is this is where, as a non-union contractor, I can say, hey, either you or us built this table with your classes, the rates and fringes, and we tied it to the job. So that, again, whether I'm entering time, it's being uploaded through a mobile app, be it ours or a different one, all the rates and stuff are correct. if you're union, this is where we can say, hey, we have guys and gals coming from unions 1 and 2, working in union local 3 and 4's jurisdiction. If our rates are higher, it can use ours. If theirs are higher and we're forced to use theirs, it'll pick up theirs. And then this is asking, what are their benefits is going to them? Most of the time, it's just a complete swap. But if, hey, some go home and some go there, this is where we can configure it, again, on a job level, because usually those rules, or not usually, but that job for the most part, unless you're heavy highway, is not going to jump from state A to state B or union territory 1 to union territory 2. And even if that was the case, we have some workarounds for that as well. Okay, the time portion of this, there's so many ways. Again, I don't like showing this during a webinar just because it's like, hey, if you think that the only way to do this is manually enter it, it can leave you guys, feeling like there's not quite enough there for you. But just let's skip this and go right into this. Point is that, when they look, you'll see the rates are changing based on prevailing wage or not, based on the city or state, if you're dealing with that. And then this is a place that either you entered it and now you're reviewing it, or it just came over from the mobile app and you're still able to edit and review, whether it was entered by you or it came over from the app. This is still the final editing, checking that would be done from the office. So the nice thing with our reports is they can be ran by employee, they can be ran by job, just so many things in this business that you need to be able to look at data one way by employee, and you need to very quickly be able to refilter that data by job, which every one of our reports, you can do that with, including workers' comp for anybody who gets into OSIP, CSIP, or wrap-up work, anything like that. All that can be done. So reports can be really ran for current week, day, week, month, year, or I can just run back to the very first day. So again, one of the big fears of outsourcing is, losing historical data. A lot of these services archive your data after 2 years. We don't. We know that, hey, it could be 5 years. You could be a client and all of a sudden you get a job that, hey, I want to go look at that other job because there's some similarities there. So that kind of stuff you can do. You can print PDF, Word, Excel, or CSV, any report. The other thing for some who are like, hey, I would love to outsource, but I do not want to lose any visibility before, after, or during payroll. You don't with us, because we have that backbone of an accounting system powering it, where there are certain folks doing this in-house. So this is where if you wanted to see not just the hours before submitting, but you wanted to see what paychecks are going to look like, you can. The nice thing is it's never a matter of do we have enough reports for our clients? It's the opposite. We have an overload of reports. So that's why not just each company, but sometimes we have more than one person in the company in here. There's different levels of security, what they can see, who they can see, what they can do. But even if they have the same level of access, some people, again, back to that report, hey, I might like to run this by employee because my specific role with payroll is more on the HR side, whereas, hey, I'm more the payroll person, but also doing certified and stuff. I'm more of the job focus side. What reports, how they're set up to run, and in what order could be unique, of course, per company, but even per individual user. Okay. And then you hit submit. Paying the employees, paying the taxes. Again, we could get into more specifics on one-on-one conversations, but it's pretty much the same from company A to company Z when it comes to that. So not a big difference maker there. But then what we can do is, whether it's QuickBooks or, if you're on a Sage or a higher end system, we can shove more back into the system than what you can with QuickBooks. So with QuickBooks, it's just pushing back all your GL transactions. My payroll's going to one account, but if you said, well, Jim, we separate office, field, shop. Yeah, those are departments or divisions with us that we can absolutely segue out so that it pushes into whatever GL account you want. Okay. And when it comes to the job side, jobs. So pushing back your labor, your FICA, your FUTA, your SUTA, union if you were union, workers' comp, and if you're non-union and it's prevailing wage, or maybe you pay a portion of health or their 401k, it is, of course, going to capture all of that as well. and then that will roll back up under each job in QuickBooks. Reports, this is where I'll get in because there are some difference makers here. So like, for example, detailed workers' comp report, I can run it more in a class total, where for whatever date I picked, I got my classes, I should say, my hours, earnings, exposure rate, premium, and what you owe. What this here now is getting into is some people call the earnings exposures, we call it the cap, the limit. But basically, when it's time to audit and they say, how'd you have 536 in gross, but only report on 495? That is where all these reports can be more for high level payment type, or maybe we need to get really into detail here for some sort of an audit. So you'd be able to do all that stuff in here, no problem. Basic earnings. I mean, again, employees can see pay stubs online. Of course, you could, hey, Jim, what about for my folks who they're not going to want to go online, but they ask me for a reprint of their paycheck or some W-2 earnings statement. You'd have access to all that stuff. Wouldn't be an issue at all. The biggest ones here, I would say, like, being able to upload to certified and EEO, or being able to print out like monthly manning reports. As you can see in here, we do this over all 50 states. And, well, a lot of these states and certifieds want the same information. Unfortunately, the form they want it on is that's what they want to accept it on. So rather than us just give you generic data that you have to then transfer to some of these more specific forms, or huge with certified, depending on where you're at. I'll go here in a second, but for my clients that are in California or a lot of these states use LCP Tracker, Wisconsin, Washington. I mean, you're just seeing more and more of it. I mean, soon enough, printing these things will be a thing of the past. They're just going to put the onus on you to go to one of these websites and hand key it in, because it saves the contractor, the agency, the state. It saves them time. It's not designed to make your life easier. However, with us, we have paper, or you could come in here and literally say, run it for LCP Tracker. It looks messy because this is nothing we want you typing. Create file now, yes. And then you still log into their website, but you just hit upload and it transfers all the data to them. So, and these are things that save our clients tons of time. They are super easy to do, but we know how important they are to the overall business. No certified payroll, you're not getting paid. Employees aren't, neither are we. So it breaks the whole kind of circle of life there when it comes to payroll. So with that being said, we are going to set this up. We are going to train you, from job reports to union reports to any of that stuff. You will not be in this system and ever be feeling lost. Even after you go live, you forget something. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, which even our West Coast clients, that's 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So you'll always be able to talk to live receptionists, support that, again, only support union, government, prevailing wage, or at the very least, construction, multi-state clients. So complex construction payrolls is what we do here. So with that being said, that's, again, just kind of the 10,000-foot overview where we can get much more detailed on a one-on-one demo, figure about 30 minutes to an hour they usually take, because it's just us and you can stop me, we can talk. So what I'll do is pop this up and give everybody a few minutes if they want to type in some questions, and then I will make sure I answer all those before we get you all out of here. So I'll put myself on mute and give everybody a minute or so to start typing in some stuff. Okay, perfect. Somebody's asking here, what about no work performed on certified payroll? Yes, it would create a file for that, or this is a little easier way to show it. And I actually meant to show because there are plenty of people that don't need that electronic stuff, so thank you for bringing me back there. But even if you're in a state that has an actual printed form, that's okay. I mean, they're all in here, constantly updating these, adding new ones. So we'll get these set up the way you want them. We will save them. And then you're just changing the date range, potentially, depending on where you're working. You get into New York, New Jersey, you're doing work for different agencies. You might have to, change formats. But in this one, this will do also back to that question of no work performed. So, yeah, if this job is going to go on for another, 6 months, you're not going to be there, Until you close it out, it'll keep running those. And that brings up another thing. You don't have to be nervous to delete or deactivate an employee or job. I know this is construction. I could deactivate a job today and get told, oh, wait a minute, we got to go back there. Now what? Well, once you reactivate it, if it was a certified job, all your no work would be there and then whatever data you put against it. So same with employees. Keep your drop downs, keep your reports clean. You get rid of an employee today and they come back 2 weeks from now, you can reactivate them without having to refill everything in. Okay. All right, somebody's asking OSIP, CSIP reporting. So, yep, 100%. So let me go back here, and this will just kind of show the report. I just have a few different database examples here, but quick enough to show. So OSIP, CSIP goes back to the very beginning, job. So do you have to tell every job to track your regular workers' comp? No, that's your default policy. But just like I can attach prevailing wage stuff here, on the payroll tab, I can say, this is an OSIP, CSIP wrap-up job. So again, I'm not flagging every job where I could accidentally not track workers' comp. We're doing the norm, just like if you have a home state, but you do 20% of your work in a different state. You got home state, then you've got the override job state. So you put that on there, and then what will happen is when you go to run your reports, just like I said, reports can be ran by employee or policy. They can also be ran by job here. So if I run this by job, because if I got 3 OSIP jobs going, I can't have it, they're all in one report. I got to sit there and peel them out. This is where I can say, hey, specific to this job for this date range, our classes, our employees, earning type, hours, earnings, exposure. How we don't screw up your job costing for this job, we make your rate 0, your premium 0, doesn't bleed into your normal workers' comp, doesn't look like your job costing's off, but gives you something to send to the owner of that job. Let's see here. Our service work order set up as jobs along with construction jobs. So that one's tough. I mean, yeah, they would be in this case. Your next question here references Sage, so I get where you're going, and I'll answer that one. But there's just like Sage, Foundation has a service portion of it. Is a payroll for a construction client? You don't get it. So the only way you keep that tracking in place is yes. Now you can export and import jobs. I mean, the ones where you got to start connecting states and unions and prevailing wage tables, that will not import over. So those ones you got to at least get in there and add it or add the job. But you could, if you had a bunch of service jobs that didn't need any of that, you could export them and import those in. And then that leads to sub jobs. Yeah. So I mean, you either have with us, your architect for job costing can be job phase cost code. So sub jobs phases. Yes, we could talk more one-on-one. I've seen them use different ways where to make that integration work, we got to make sure we line them up on our end. But I mean, yeah, you can say job 1 is the apartment building. It's a 10-floor apartment building. So there's going to be 10 phases of that job 1, and then with under that, we're tracking our cost codes, which is electrical, drywall, plumbing, whatever the case is. So, but yeah, similar to a Sage, we can match a structure like that. Okay. Let's see here. Yes, you can. Somebody's asking, can you access this from any computer with internet? Yes, you can. And this here would be you access from our website, any computer with internet. If we did a one-on-one demo and we got into talking our mobile app, it's going to be, yes, it's going to look a lot different than this. It's going to be mobile friendly. It's a night and day difference between what here in the office we're looking at and we've covered today, as opposed to if we start talking the couple different options we have for mobile time tracking. Yeah, that will resonate much more with your field staff. All right. Well, once again, if anybody wants a live demo, we are not going to, call you nonstop. If you just say, Jim, just send me a quote, all you got to do is say, give me your pay frequency, your average employee count. If you're in multi-state, tell me how many states you're in. And I can send you over a quote just so you can, before you get into maybe more conversations, we are very upfront with pricing, very competitive there. So anything from, Jim, I want a more of a one-on-one demo. Let's pick a day and time to, Jim, just give me a quote to start, and then I'll reach back out to you guys. We can do that stuff. So again, very grateful everybody for your time today. Hopefully we'll talk again soon and see if outsourcing could help you out. Thanks and have a great day.